Jared here from the Heel to the Face podcast. I just got out of AEW Revolution 2024. I'm back in my hotel room, and I got a few quick takeaways from the amazing AEW pay-per-view at Greensboro Coliseum. My first trip to Greensboro Coliseum, as well as to an AEW pay-per-view, and both were just top-notch. Let me just tell you, all of the shots of AEW Dynamite over the last couple of months having poor attendance, well, this show was nothing to say to any of that because a completely sold out crowd. This was a WrestleMania 15 in arena, right? This was back in the day when WrestleMania 16 and WrestleMania 20 and WrestleMania 21 were all in arenas. That was this crowd. 17,000 in this place, and it's a very, very big venue. A venue which was top notch when it comes to AEW coming. It wasn't just like a Monday Night Raw. I mean, they had this place decked out for the pay-per-view event. And I just want to start off by saying, when it comes to the venue itself, parking. Now, a lot of people know me as somebody who's pretty cheap when it comes to paying to park. I don't pay to park if I can help it. But I never really understood where paying to park always meant that you got better parking. Because the place where I parked tonight was better than the worst place in the parking lot. And I was so close to the arena that it was the equivalent of being in the front of the parking lot. Now, if I would have paid to park in the lot, I wouldn't have gotten the first spot. I wasn't there early enough. But I was there early enough to get this spot, which was in a bigger arena or a different setting. I was as close to the arena as staff would be, as the talent would be, as the premium people who come to the event would be. So for free versus the $25, I was very close to the arena, and better than that, when the event got out, zero, and I mean zero traffic for me, because obviously the parking lot, there is traffic to get out. You're not the only one trying to get out, but me being already on the road that all the people in the parking lot are trying to get to, I mean, I got to my hotel in under the time it says that it takes to get there with no event going on. So, you know, when you go to your events, especially if you're from the area where the event is going on, I just don't understand why people don't know how to get better parking and don't know how to, you know, get those spots, if especially they're locals. But the pay-per-view itself, you know, a very long pay-per-view. It's hard for me to even go back to the beginning and remember what essentially happened in the early parts of this pay-per-view. I mean, going back to 0 Hour, I was walking around, you know, just caught the end of Jay White's speech after his team won their match during 0 Hour. And Willow Nightingale, I don't know what it is, but I was talking with Brandon here, and it's crazy the response that she gets, and she got on 0 Hour tonight. It's crazy how popular she is in the women's division. But on the main card, Christian retains the TNT Championship against Daniel Garcia, and then Daniel Bryan and Eddie Kingston in a great match. I'd say a pretty good match for his Continental Crown Championship, all the belts essentially, right? Eddie Kingston retains, shakes hands with Bryan Danielson at the end of the match as agreed upon. Right, we move on to the All-Star Scramble. Wardlow ends up getting the win in the All-Star Scramble. That means he'll get a championship shot down the line. We had Blackpool Combat Club in a tag team match against FTR, and a great match. Blackpool Combat Club coming out dressed in the LOD shoulder pads, and in the end, they get the win. Very entertaining match. Another just AEW, the way they give it to you kind of match. Trying to remember this whole card here. The women's match, a little bit of a tease, because the first person that came out, which was Mariah May, we all thought was Toni Storm, as the old Toni Storm. So a lot of people thought Toni Storm was dropping the Timeless gimmick, but it ended up just being a swerve, and Timeless Toni Storm did come out, and with referee distraction in the match, she gets the win over Deonna Purrazzo. A good match overall. There's really no doubt that the match of the night, when it comes to in-ring ability, it's really not even up for debate. It's the match of the year thus far in professional wrestling. Will Ospreay and it just put on a match with Takeshita. It just was. If you're going to show someone who doesn't watch wrestling a match this year, show them that match. There was no parts of that match that were not entertaining. If the match only lasted 10 minutes, it would have been amazing. If it lasted 15 minutes, it would have been amazing. I don't know the time on it, but the point is the entire match was amazing. There was never any dull points. It wasn't long for the sake of being long. It was, thus far, the match of the year. Will Ospreay gets the win. And, I mean, I can tell you, I've been to WrestleManias, and the crowd in that match was more electric than anything that I've experienced in quite a while that I can remember, especially in an environment like that where it's not a big stadium. Just amazing. The championship match, the AEW World Championship match, Samoa Joe, Swerve Strickland, and Hangman Adam Page did all the good stuff that you can in a triple threat match. In the end, essentially, Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland fight with each other, only to help Samoa Joe set himself up to get the finishers on both the guys and get the win. He pins Swerve Strickland, from what I can remember, and he retains the championship in an all-right match, but it followed the Will Ospreay match, and it just, I mean, what are you going to do when you're following the Will Ospreay match? It's just, it's impossible. One more match to remember, too, the International Championship, Roderick Strong. He was taking on Orange Cassidy, who was the champion. Roderick Strong gets the win. He's the new international champion in AEW. And returned Kyle O'Reilly at the end. And it appeared that Kyle O'Reilly, sided it with Undisputed and those guys when the night finished out. But it wasn't a necessarily for sure thing. But then the main event, it delivered on all angles, right? You have Sting coming out with two Stings, both the Wolfpack Sting and the Surfer Sting, as you call it, one being his son. And I believe both were his kids. I'm not 100% sure. I'm in the crowd, right? I'm not there with the audio, with the audio on, and the announcers telling me what's going on here. But what I believe is his blood came out as the two Stings. And just an amazing match. I mean, it's crazy to think that a guy who is just about to be 65 years old could not just put on a match like this and where he was thrown through a table more than twice, right? And he did all of the stunts, he did all the bumps, but to just be in the match in general. Just be in the match while everyone else does all the work, or in a regular match, would have been very impressive. But to be in a GCW, like CZW, ECW, hardcore style match, to be 60, I mean, that's what we think of Terry Funk, and that's what we think of New Jack, and we think of those people, even at their older ages. But we do not think of Sting going through, a table twice off of the stage, essentially, in his last match. Darby Allin, he took the biggest fall of the night. He did the coffin drop, which he thought was going to go through the Bucks, but they moved and he went through a plate of glass. But there was multiple shatterings of glass. One of the bigger spots was the Young Bucks super kicking both Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, who were ringside. But Sting, I mean, you couldn't keep him down. One of the biggest highlights of the night when he kicked out at 1 from a super kick, which we thought was, maybe the finish of the match. Kicks out at 1. And then obviously he gets the pinfall. Sting and Darby Allin are still the champs. Don't know what they're going to do with the belts, but they're still the champs. At the end, when the show went off the air, it appeared that Darby Allin was handing the belt to Tony Khan. But that's for future Dynamites. When the pay-per-view did go off the air, Sting called out Tony Khan. He got Tony Schiavone to say, "It's Sting" on the microphone one last time. Just an amazing send-off for Sting. I'm so lucky to have had an opportunity to be here. I was down in North Carolina, for this reason, but also other reasons. But either way, I would have, now looking back on it, I would have tried to make a point to be here, because amazing pay-per-view. If AEW can do the things that WWE does when it comes to the, extracurricular activities, like fan fests and other things going on around pay-per-view weekends, then I'm going to hit up more AEW pay-per-views. This was an amazing show, an amazing crowd. Felt like you were at Survivor Series or the Royal Rumble or any big event. And I know the WWE's bigger events are now in stadiums, not in arenas, but any WWE event that was in an arena, like the Survivor Series 2001, winner take all, I don't know if the crowd at one of the bigger pay-per-views of my childhood, Survivor Series 2001, in the Greensboro Coliseum, I don't know if the crowd was as hyped or as jacked as they were tonight. if WWE could probably steal some of the magic AEW had tonight, I mean, that'd be amazing. So for all of those who talk bad about AEW, let me just tell you, tonight was not just about Sting, but it was about AEW. And it was about showing that, wow, I mean, this company can put on a show. This company can put on a show in front of a rabid crowd. I mean, I will say, obviously, the takeaways I always have with AEW pay-per-views is we can cut a few matches, right? The pay-per-view is 4 hours long. Didn't need to be, especially for the fact that there was no segments. It was literally match, which in the wrestling world is good, right? Unlike the Royal Rumble over here, we have 4 matches and a lot of segments in between the matches. I feel like you still could cut out a match or two that just didn't need to be on the card. I mean, there's 11 matches in total if you count the pre-show on this card. It's a little long. If you're taking somebody who's never been to wrestling before, they're gonna like the first hour and a half of this thing, but they're gonna get a little drawn on. That's all I'm gonna say. So cut it down to the 3-hour mark, and AEW, you got yourself a perfect pay-per-view. This week on our show, we're gonna talk more things AEW Revolution, and hey, it's officially March. And it's crazy to think, as hyped and jacked as I was tonight, that we're like less than 5 weeks from WrestleMania. But that's a story for another time. AEW Revolution 2024, Sting, still AEW World Tag Team Champion. Will he defend it? Probably not.